Hi everybody, this is a VR to Happy-Go-Lucky Piper in response to his 150th sub-gore. But first of all, the housekeeping. I'm smoking one of my meerschaum pipes, and in it I've got Dunhill Standard Mixture. Right, the questions that the Happy-Go-Lucky Piper has asked for the gore. First of all, a sort of personal ID of where you are and that kind of thing, which I'll have to be careful because I do so enjoy talking about myself. Most of you know that my name is Stephen Waters. I live in near Killingworth in Newcastle upon Tyne, where I've retired to. I live with Carolyn, my wife, who allows me to smoke indoors and to put my tobacco on the shelves, as you'll see behind me, and my pipes on the fireplace, which is very, very nice in cold weather. I've done several things in my life. When I left school in Norfolk, and then we moved to Yorkshire. When I left school, I went into tailoring, gents tailoring. After that, I went to work in one or two factories in Otley. It was the kind of time when you could walk out of one job and walk into another. And I spent quite a lot of time in a paper mill in Otley until one of my assistants on my machine suffered a very, very serious brain damage from a fall. And the firm said that he bled into the brain before he fell. So his mother got £400 compensation, which was nothing. I got more than that for a sprained wrist in the factory. But anyway, after that I went to work at a garden centre in Otley, a place called W.H. Smith's, and enjoyed that immensely, working outside first of all and then in the shop. And then I went to a theological college, trained as an Anglican priest, served as a priest for several years, but eventually had a massive breakdown and had to retire due to ill health. My wife also was a priest, a lady priest. She had her own parish, and I was the housekeeper. Instead of her, I looked after the home and helped her as much as I could. But eventually she too had to retire due to ill health. And I live now in a church-owned bungalow, which we rent an exorbitant rent. My hobbies, well, writing especially. I run a writing group. I like collecting useless pieces of information. You know, I can tell you the only operation with a 300% mortality. It was carried out by a man called Liston, who was a very famous surgeon of his time. He was amputating a patient's leg without anaesthetic. As he brought the fleshing knife round the leg, he cut off his assistant's thumb, who was holding the leg, and his assistant died of septicemia. He threw the knife down to take the saw from his mouth to cut through the bone, and it cut the tailcoat of a gentleman who was observing, one of the many visitors who liked to see operations, and he died of a heart attack. The patient died a few days later of shock and septicemia. So 300% in one operation. That's not bad. I collect medical historical facts amongst all other things. Anything to do with history, anything to do with science, anything to do with astronomy. I used to work as an assistant as an observatory in Northumberland and enjoyed what I saw. Since leaving the church, I've lost my faith and been a lot happier. No longer feeling guilt that was piled on me or any of the other things. I've been smoking a pipe for I started I think in April or May, sometime around there, when I put up my first video. My son was smoking, and like all things, my son leads me into temptation. It was because of him I started getting tattoos. I'll show you the one I had first, which is a green man. That was done for me by a Hell's Angel with a dirty needle. And when he'd finished, he picked up a piece of cardboard off the ground, put it over the wound and just wrapped it with sellotape. And it was the best healing tattoo I'd had. I did that because my son had a tattoo. So, and my son's the Wharf Valley Boy, who's on YouTube, Pipe Smokers Group. My favourite tobaccos, I suppose, are English and Balkans. I like some aromatics, and I'm willing to try most things and tend to like most things. I think that's because my sense of smell and taste are not as good as they used to be. You can see behind me, the top shelf is my present rota of smokes, which I'm trying to work out which ones I like best and trying to get through the rest to get rid of them. And I've started cellaring on the next shelf up, and I've got a humidor with some cigars in on the table behind me, excuse me. My favourite pipe is my Cobbett Shire, which I get my name from, Shire of the Cobbett of the Shire. I think Cobbett pipes are well worth having. And my other favourite pipe is this one. I got it from Northern Briars. It's the sea urchin pipe. It's got a nice big bowl. It's a brilliant smoker. Very tactile. And I also like Peterson and Italian pipes. I think I'll stop there before I start boring you. A miracle, it's really difficult because I do see strange things happen. I worked as a deliverance ministry, which is basically an exorcist, dealing with houses and strange things that are going on. And I've seen various healings which I couldn't explain, but that have happened. But I think one of the miracles that led to my eternal happiness was taking my wife to be home, when her boyfriend couldn't be bothered and said to me, "Can you take home? I've got other things to do," which I thought was very generous of him. And we soon started a relationship and got married. I call that a miracle, because what boyfriend is going to let another man take his wife home? We've had a very interesting marriage. Carolyn says I've changed so many times, and when I change very drastically. But we've worked through all the problems that we had, and now feel very relaxed with each other, each answering the other's questions before they're asked, or saying the same thing as people who have been married a long time do. So that's my miracle. You might not consider it a miracle, but I consider any woman who would marry me miraculous. At the time I got married, the first time she saw me was at a church youth club. I was too old to go, I was 21. But I'd been taken there by the curate. And when I walked in, she said I looked like a slug. She said you were deathly white, you were wearing black polo neck shirt, black trousers, and you looked far more interested than any of the church youth club boys. And when I walked in and saw her, I knew that she was the girl for me. Love at first sight, if you like. But anyway, I hope that's enough on those ones. Excuse me a moment. I've got some shout-outs. One of them's a sort of fairly well-known piper, and that's Crosby's Corner. I want to give him a shout-out because he used to smoke cigars mainly, but has started smoking a pipe. So I consider him a fairly new guy with a pipe. A second shout-out is New to Cobbs and Mob Piper, both fairly new to the pipe community, and both worth looking at, and if you like them, give them a shout-out. Give them a sub. Sorry. So I think I've fulfilled the necessaries there of the questions that were asked, but I want to say something about Happy-Go-Lucky Piper. He's someone who's impressed me immensely by his wisdom and his knowledge, by his presence on his videos. He produces marvellous videos, far better produced than mine are. If you don't know him, for goodness sake, find him, Happy-Go-Lucky Piper, and give him a sub and enter the goal, although not too many of you, because I want to stand a chance. And I think that's about it. I'm just trying to think whether there's anything else that I should mention. I'm surprised that I got through the introduction of myself so shortly. One thing I want to say about Newcastle upon Tyne, it's a wonderful place to live. The Geordies are friendly people usually, will do anything for anybody. You go into a shop and the assistants are usually very, very good, very friendly. We have good hospitals here, which is important for Carolyn especially. We have a brilliant metro transport system, and we're 15 minutes from the seaside, we're 15 minutes from the Northumbrian hills, and there's a tremendous amount of history here. So if any of you live nearby, let me know. If any of you want a place to visit when you're in England, don't forget the cities outside London and some of the villages, because there you'll meet real people. Not that you won't in London, but there's something different about England. It's the shires. We're still basically a farming country, a community, a village community. Lots of people live in the cities, yes, but it's the English villages that make up the most, I think, in the agricultural land. I'm going to stop there. Just want to say to you all, may you be richly blessed, and may your God go with you.